So like many of my BBC's folks, this is kind of a thought process in motion. My caveat is that there may be a lot of lack of clarity. It has no drawn conclusions, and there's probably a whole lot more questions than answers in it. But Geshe-la's teachings have really got me thinking about some things I wanted to share with you. So first of all, I've always been very much drawn from the very, very beginning of my Dharma practice life. I've always been drawn to the method side of the path. I've kind of said, well, that's the dull faculty student side, but I was like, forget that. I love the paths and grounds. I love the perfections. I love the four measurables. I've loved all the teachings of Shantideva. It just rings in my heart, so true. But I've also recognized over time that to actualize them, I'm going to really need to examine how my view of self, who I think I am, and how it manifests, how it plays its part in being able to actualize the method side of the path. So with some reticence a number of years ago, I drew the conclusion that I'm going to have to get as curious about the wisdom side of the path as that I have with the method side of the path. So I've done the 4-point analysis over the years, and I tend to go, as they suggested, to recall some of the times where I have a really, really strong, disturbing emotions. And I tend to go to the aversion side of the afflictive list. So I get into, when I feel the most resentful, the most obstinate, the most stubborn, the most furious about things, and all of anger's permutations. And then I go ahead and I put it into the 4-point analysis, say, okay, whoever's having these feelings, Semke's got to be either separate with the aggregates, the body and the mind, or totally one with it. It can't be. That's your choice. So over the past how many years I've been doing this, the best that I can get to is that it appears to me a lot like this self is very, very separate from the body and mind. Maybe it's my Catholic upbringing with the soul thing, I don't know, but it's definitely separate. It utilizes the body to navigate the world, and it uses the mind to express itself. But it seems to me to be more of a boss in charge, or even to the metaphor of the lion that wanders the forest. It's got a territory. It utilizes the forest for its shelter, its clothing, its food, its rest. But it has nothing to do with the forest. It's got this territory and it's in charge of it. So when I'm at my biggest afflicted state, that's what it feels like. This lioness who's moving around in this body, utilizing the body and the mind to express how pissed off it is and how solid it is and how concrete it is. So then I think about, I'm going to go look in the body, because there's definitely a physical expression when I'm really in my afflicted, angry states. There is definitely a physical component. So the closest I can get in the body is usually somewhere in the heart area. The lungs, the breath, the whole body sensations, generally in the front of the body. So when I say, okay, that's where this lion lives. She lives somewhere in this part of the body. So I go in there, and she just kind of saunters away. And I'm left to looking at my rib cage and my lungs and my heart and my pancreas or whatever's up in the upper part of my body. So then I go, well, there's this mind. Okay, so where do I sense my mind? Where is this resentment? Where is this mind? Where is this self that's resenting and furious right now? And it's somewhat either in the head or somewhere in basically the same place. So then I go look for the lion who has the mind that's in this place, and she saunters away in the other direction, which is what's supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to be able to find this self, so it's not like an unsuccessful meditation, but it's frustrating, because then I'll just walk away from it, something else will get triggered, and she's back in the forest again, doing her thing, using the body, using the mind to tell everybody how upset she is. And so so I've always used the afflictive, the aversion, all the different permutations of anger to do the 4-point analysis. So when we come to this chapter on the truth of path, there's this whole section that says how, the attachment to the body and craving to be inseparable from the body is really the main source of samsara, this ego grasping, this clinging to the self. So then I got to say, I've never gone the attachment side. maybe I don't think I have any. It's hard to believe, but I'm so caught up because the anger, the sense of self when I get into the angry list is so painful that I just go looking because I want to get rid of it. But when the attachment is totally involved, I like the feeling. I mean, I've got the whole list of what it feels like when my attachment, and this lion is in the forest and she's doing her thing. She loves being mesmerized. She loves being infatuated, entitled, seduced, addicted, over the moon, tickled to death. She just loves that kind of sense. And I don't want to be separated from that sense. When that attachment is getting what it wants and it is infatuated and enamored with its own opinions and its ideas and its praise and all the comfort foods and things like that, I don't want to be separated from it. I love that sense of self. That's good to go. And now we're finding out from, Geshe-la doing this text that this is a problem, that this is a flaw, that I have to really understand that I'm a common, ordinary person. And because I see this self when it's just craving the happiness, I crave to be not separated from that self that has all these good qualities. It's running my show, it's engaging the world, and I will do everything under my power to keep this self happy because it makes me feel so good. Okay, and also too, this I desires all good things. I want good qualities. I want my good qualities to shine. And this lioness is really good at making sure that everybody sees my good qualities. I want confirmation. I want validation. I want people to know that I exist with all these good qualities. So then this is just in the past 2 days. This is what I'm thinking about, all the things that I'm attached to. It's like, oh my gosh. But it gets tricky because I also have this, when I'm looking at this merely imputed self that's totally melded, welded, merged with this lion in the forest, is that I also have virtue going on. And many times I feel wonderful when I'm creating it. So then I get a little bit confused because what's the difference between the happiness of the merely designated self when it's creating love, compassion, reading the paths and grounds and being inspired, and this lion of pride, this lion of attachment that's craving pleasure and at the moment is getting what it wants and it's feeling really, really good. So they're really mingled, and I get very confused on which one is sort of rolling itself out at any given time. So what I did, one of the indicators, and it moved into the next verse that followed this, was that if this whole sense of self, by default, we're going to get this sense of other, that the self-interest, the preoccupation separates us out from the rest of the world, and then that other becomes this, well, there's a lot of things that happen because we don't like this other unless it is doing something for us to keep us happy. So one of the indicators is when I'm engaged in the attachment getting what it wants, when it's the craving, the infatuation, being enamored with my own self-importance, that the other is simply used as a tool, totally objectified. I'm not really caring about the other. As long as it's doing what I want, I'm getting what I want, the other is okay. But once that stops happening, then the other becomes the problem. When I've got bodhicitta in my mind, what it says, the only way that bodhicitta looks at others is what can I do to repay the amazing kindness of that other? And that is a totally different feeling, a totally different mind than the one that's holding the other captive to provide the happiness that it wants. So the Buddha has given us some remarkable, precise guidance on how to practice. First of all, to challenge this lion in my forest, to start doubting it, to start refuting it, beginning to dismantle this really ancient relationship that we've had that's all around a mental construct. When I think about this, that we have been circling a beginningless time because we have believed a mental construct about something that does not exist. It's absolutely, when they say we're crazy, this is evidence. So the Buddha gives us using logic and reason, which as Venerable said beautifully the other day, logic and reason about how does this become real for you? How do you understand this? Run it through your life. See how it works. See how it doesn't work. that we can have all the tools that we need to identify however your self-grasping arises for you, totally involved with the aggregates or totally separate, but to be able to slowly mitigate, lessen, to be able to discern and challenge and refute this self-grasping, and to let the merely designated self have some breathing space, which is the one that cultivates the causes and conditions for awakening. So that's as far as I've gotten. There's no answers to this, but it sure has stirred up a lot of thinking on who the heck I really am. So we'll see.